already passed their citizenship tests, like Carol said, just by virtue of being born in America? Should we focus more on better preparing our students for the job market than basic civics questions?
Well, I think that it's not an either or. That's what I've learned, is that, yeah, we do need to do a better job of preparing our students and children for the job market, but basic civic knowledge is critical. You need to know how these things are happening to you and, frankly, who's doing it. The fact that people might not know who the President of the United States is or the Vice President, we can't take that for granted anymore. And frankly, I think all of us know that there's a real lack of knowledge about some of these critical components about how our government works on the federal and state level, and knowing those things, because the impacts are so significant, is something that I don't think students can really afford to live without.
I have 3 kids. One's in college, 2 are in high school, and absolutely they should know who their senators are. Absolutely they should know how many justices are on the Supreme Court. But if we really want to give them the quality education that they deserve, then we need to go back to the legislature, and we need to fully fund public education in the state. And maybe that's the broader issue here.
Well, and look, we've heard that in Alabama for a long time, saying we need to fully fund. And in fact, I was in a hearing last week where somebody said, well, we need to fully fund. And the legislator said, how much? How much do you really want? And that's a discussion for another day. But again, focusing back on the instant issue, this is basic, rudimentary civic knowledge about how does this government work? Where did we come from? The questions run from civil rights to what are your actual rights embodied in the Constitution. And people need to understand those things. It is critical, and that's what I keep coming back to, is that's the point of the legislation, saying you need to know this. And I would want my students to know it.
Why are we going to all this trouble? Another layer of testing, paying for something, where's that money going? I mean, there are just a lot of questions when I think the answers are right in front of us. Let's improve education, maybe add another required course, but have teachers, have educators make that decision, and not legislators.
Well, I think, again, this is quite rudimentary in that the basic knowledge is not being bestowed to our children and students. They're not learning it. And right. I think that at the end of the day, that's the question, is this critical information? Sure, I would love higher standards, more rigorous standards. How about you have to get 8 out of 10? Or it's a 50-question test. I mean, there's any number of ways to do this. I find it silly that the test is out there, that we know the questions, that it's completely available. It's not like anybody's playing hide the ball, and we can't figure out how to administer the test in a low-cost, easy way. I think that we should be able to do that. And this notion that this is some sort of legislative imposition, well, hey, if we were learning it in the first place, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, you're right about the whole silly thing. I mean, I really think that just the idea of setting such a low standard, and that we're giving kids basically a citizenship test when they're already citizens. Yeah, silly is a word that comes to mind. But
just a quick question for both of y'all: have you taken the test?
I did. I took the test.
I did not, but I'm more than happy to subject myself to. I mean, the truth is, I read all the questions and I did study for said test. The issue is, with this information out there, it's not that hard. Like, this is not a big burden. I think where the compromise actually lies is, are we going to figure out a mechanism to ask kids these questions that isn't, I agree with the issue of layers. Like, we don't need another separate standalone test. There has got to be a course, a way to incorporate this test, which is important, into the educational process without creating another sort of, you've got to sit here for an hour and do this. This should be like, honestly, almost like a swim test. Like saying, hey, can you swim? You jump in the pool, you do it. If not, we try it again. We teach you how to swim, and then we do this. And I think this isn't designed to be gotcha. It's not designed to stop people from graduating. It's simply saying, hey, you just want to make sure you know this before you graduate. And I agree with Carol that we need to figure out a way to do that without another layer of bureaucracy.
Well, I've got a couple questions from each of you all. These are real questions from the real test. Some are difficult, some are not.
All right.
decide, is this what we want to spend our time making sure our students know? Carol, who does a U.S. Senator represent?
Oh, go ahead.
All people of the state, all people of the state who belong to the senator's political party, legislatures, only the people in the state who voted for the senator.
All the people in the state.
All right, Cameron, here's a really tough one.
All right.
What ocean is the east coast of the is on the east coast of the United States? The Arctic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, or the Atlantic Ocean?
That would be the Atlantic Ocean, but the Indian Ocean sounds nice this time of year.
It does. Okay.
This is perfect, John. I mean, these are the type of questions that are asked that we should really have a pause if students don't know these things. I mean, it's not that hard, and it's not that hard for a reason, because we're literally calling it basic knowledge. I would love students to know the line of succession for the president. That sounds like an interesting thing, but it's far less important than who is your senator? Who is, what do they do? Yeah. What is the difference between federal and state government? Those are the things that actually have practical import, and that's what concerns me.
Yeah, and it brings up so many other questions. Why don't they know it? Or do we have good teachers? Do we have the right curriculum? The mechanics are in place. We just need to make sure that we're teaching it, and let's go through educators, principals, teachers, and the smartest people we can find to answer those questions.
Well, that sounds like a
Speaking of questions
for another day. So I want to thank you guys both for weighing in. This was fun. And now I'd like to invite the readers to weigh in. We have a poll down below. Let us know what you think. Should our students have to take the citizenship